Tonight is a night of questions. Some questions have answers, some do not. I'm going to begin tonight, though, with a question that does have an answer, and I need a show of hands. How many of you have or have had a snow globe? Yes. Yes, you have. What could be more iconic? What could be a more iconic symbol of the Christmas season than the magic, mystical snow globe? All right, so here's a little history. Did you know that the snow globe dates back to Paris, 1878? The snow globe came about quite by accident because there happened to be a person who was a producer of surgical instruments. Yes, surgical instruments. And this particular inventor was very interested in how to get more wattage into the surgical room to shed more light on the subject. And so the inventor was playing around with, it's kind of a medieval practice of trying to focus light using a flask of water. So putting a flask of water in front of light creates a little bit more of an intense lighting situation. And so what did this inventor want to do? He wanted to add particular elements to the flask, and he added glitter, something reflective, and guess what? It looked like snow. Eureka, right? And there we have the beginning of the life of snow globes that are decorating mantelpieces and filling tourist shops across the world. What would any holiday movie, what would any Netflix movie be without a scene of someone catching sight of a snow globe, shaking it and staring wistfully into its flurry of flakes? What is it about the snow globe that captures our imagination? Well, here's what I think. I think that snow globes help us imagine stepping into another life. They help us imagine stepping into different moments. They capture, don't they, literally, a particular scene, a winter wonderland, perhaps, a moment frozen. We shake it up, watch the swirl, and then maybe we say a prayer, and then we hope. We hope for what? Well, perhaps we hope for a more perfect world in which to enter, or to sit by a cozy fireplace with a cat in our lap. Or perhaps we want to go back to the past when things were different. Or perhaps we just want to escape this world and step into another one that is more perfect, more ideal, where all is calm, all is bright. Well, thanks to the hard work of a lot of beautiful, faithful people at St. Paul's, I think that St. Paul's looks just a little bit like a snow globe this evening. Right? It does. But as amazing as this church looks, and as beautiful as you all look this evening, we have come here because God has decided to enter our snow globe. God has decided to step into our world. And this is the mystery of the incarnation that we have come to embody tonight, right here, right now, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, no matter what you don't believe, no matter your past or your present. God has stepped into our world. So the question I have every single year about this time is, why? Why in the world would God do this? Well, it's really hard to say. What happens in the mystery of the incarnation is one of the greatest mysteries in the business. Why would God become flesh when flesh, as we all know, is so tender and so mild? Flesh is woundable. Flesh is vulnerable. Why would anybody in their right mind want to enter into this particular state of affairs? Well, I can think of two reasons. And this is what they are. The first reason is that in the enfleshing of God, in God becoming flesh, in God becoming just like you and me, God is born into the midst of regular people dealing with regular things. And sometimes those things are extraordinarily magical and bright and beautiful, and sometimes those things are extraordinarily hard and confusing. The second reason that I believe that God has chosen to become enfleshed, God has chosen to become flesh. God is born where God is born because God wants to touch and honor and affirm every human life. God wants us to connect with the holiness that is within every single one of us. And the only way that God could do it, the only way that God could imagine that happening is to become one of us, hallowing us, sanctifying us, being one of us. By becoming one of us, God has decided to walk in our shaky shoes. Just think about our globes right now. Think about our globe. It is pretty shaken. It's pretty shaken up, isn't it? Our own footprints, our own thumbprints, our own fingerprints are on everything. Even on things that were never intended to have our thumbprints on. And of course, the world is shaken by warfare and hostility. Our globe is shaken by, this is mine, that's not yours. The world is shaken by threats of greed and power. The world is shaken by the threat of human rights, basic human rights, being taken away. The world is shaken by taking sides, and our globe is indeed shaken. And I could use a little Christmas magic right about now. But this is the thing, God is not about magic. God isn't about magic, and God doesn't enter our world to make it perfect. That was never the promise. Instead, why does God enter our world? God enters so that you and I will not be alone as we journey together in faith. Even as we struggle, Jesus is here to walk beside us. Now, I'm one of those persons who's blessed enough, privileged enough to live in the fan here in our beloved Richmond. And I spent a lot of time walking down alleyways. I was walking the other day down a back alley, and of course, I have this sermon in mind, as I do for weeks in advance. What will I talk about? What will I preach about? What do people need to hear? And as I walk down back alleys where light is dim and trash cans line the rough cobblestone roads, I was reminded that Bethlehem was not a lot different. Bethlehem, Bethlehem, oh little town of Bethlehem. It was the backwoods. It was a back alley. It was Nowheresville, ancient Near East, which is part of the plan. A part of God's entrance into our world, for it is on those rough stone roads into the refused, into the spilled, into the rejected where God is born. God is born into the midst of used pizza boxes and overspilling takeout containers. In the neglected and the discarded places of our own lives, it is to places such as these that the mystery of the incarnation rests. It is in these places where God shows up and shines out. The poet of one of our hymns in our hymnal says that every stone shall cry. And every stone shall cry, and straw like gold shall shine. A barn shall harbor heaven. A stall becomes a shrine. Tonight is about the questions. Tonight is about the mystery. It's not about claiming something that we know 100%. It's embracing a love so strong that that love wanted to become you and me. Tonight we embrace a mystery. Whether we live on beautiful lamp-lit streets, or for some reason we find ourselves in cold fields or back alleys, the incarnation tells us that nothing is beyond God's embrace. And that embrace infuses our world with a way to live and treat each other. You may have seen in the New York Times a recent article by writer David Brooks. And he talks about his experiences of faith. And I think the title is something like, Not What I Expected. Faith. So he writes about his own relationship with religion, and this is what he says. We are embraced by a moral order. What we call good and evil are not just preferences that this or that set of individuals invent according to their own tastes. Rather, slavery, cruelty, mistreatment of the other are wrong at all times and in all places because they are an assault on something that is sacred in all times and in all places: human dignity. Human dignity. Contrariwise, self-sacrificial love, generosity, mercy, and justice are not just pleasant to see. They're fixed spots on an eternal compass. Things you can orient your life toward. Things you can orient your life toward. And that's what we have come to do tonight. We've come to profess and confess that we are orienting our life towards something different. And God wanted us to have a living, breathing something that we could orient our lives around. And in our tradition, that fixed spot is Jesus. And it starts out in a manger. A little baby who needed to be wrapped in strips of cloth. Because why? He was vulnerable and woundable. And this Jesus began and ended his life in the flesh, woundable, vulnerable, and fully part of the complexities and complications of our shaken up world. So why did God come? Why did God enter in this way? Well, my theory is that God came to make it obvious that every single human being has dignity, and that no one is beyond the globe-loving embrace and affirmation of God. So what is it about these snow globes? They hold our attention, don't they? Well, understandably, we sometimes wish we could enter into their safety and their warmth and their security. And my prayer is that you get to do that. Enter into the world of safety and security and warmth. And because of the way that God is born into all of the world, we come together tonight to affirm that God, Jesus, also wants for all flesh, all persons, everybody, to have those moments also. Christ's birth, the birth of God, is not about the past. There's a beloved former rector of this church named John Shelby Spong. And he said this: Christmas is not about the past. It's not about angels or shepherds, and might I add, not even about snow globes. Christmas is about a present hope. Christmas is about a present hope, and the hope is the birth of the divine. The birth of the divine in our lives right now. So, I wish you all the joy and the magic of a snow globe. And I wish us all the present hope of a world in which justice, love, fairness, and peace prevail. A planet, a globe, a peaceable kingdom. Do you hear what I hear? That's the sound of the divine being born in you. Born with healing in his wings, light and life to all he brings. Hark, hark, the angels sing. Glory to our newborn King. God bless you all.